animation's hard. You can't really figure this stuff out in a couple hours. This is not a weekend task. So I have to find
Yes.
something to animate this with. So I get on the internet and I'm searching for hours and hours and hours. And the only thing I could find is ballet.
Welcome to the Pixel Retentive Podcast, where we unpack the messy, beautiful intersection of creativity and business with the artists, marketers, and founders shaping our culture. Hey friends, I'm Carl, founder of Epic Made, and I'm the host of the Pixel Retentive Podcast, where we share our thoughts on creativity, art, and business. Past guests include Stefan Sagmeister, two-time Grammy-winning designer and co-founder of Sagmeister Inc., Cheryl Platts, author of the Game Development Strategy Guide, and Brian Hemserk, art leader in gaming. I'm forever grateful of the supporters of this podcast, and we are always open to more sponsors that align with our brand. That said, Pixel Retentive is brought to you by the creatives at Epic Made. Epic Made is a strategic creative studio helping brands turn big ideas into unforgettable animated content, campaign visuals, and story-driven creative that actually connects and turns viewers into fandom. We work with the best brands in gaming, entertainment, tech, and pop culture to make their ideas feel bigger, clearer, and harder to ignore. So if your brand has a campaign, launch, pitch, or story that needs to stand out, visit epicmade.net and let's make something epic together. All right, got that out of the way. With us today, we have James L. Sanders III. Welcome to the show, sir.
Oh, thanks for having me, man. How do I follow that? It's like, hey, this guy's won Grammys and stuff. I'm an effects guy. I'm an artist. Thank you for having me. That's really cool.
Super pumped to have you, and your work is of no less regard, just different accolades, and can't wait to jump into that. I personally love it. So you recently got in with you're working now at Larian Studios, or about to, right? So that's super exciting. They made Baldur's Gate 3 and a bunch of other amazing games. So that's super exciting. And a little more about you. James is a VFX visionary who has left his mark on some of gaming's most explosive franchises, from shaping the visual spectacle of Borderlands at Gearbox as lead FX artist to contributing to major titles at Sony, Bend Studio, and Intrepid Studios. With decades of AAA experience, James blends artistry, technical mastery, and production insight. He's not just building effects, he's building impact, scale, and spectacle that define modern game worlds. I'm super pumped to have you, man. And as we were talking and getting into the details of some of your work, like we started talking about Borderlands and like how that all came alive. So I'm excited to get into that a little bit as well. So
Oh man, I'm so lucky, dude. I get to do a job that is technically a challenge. It's new all the time. You have to constantly learn stuff. I get to train people, mentor people. I get to work on magical stuff, and all the time they pay me. It's like, holy crap, can you believe this? This is amazing. So yeah,
it,
man, I'm super happy to be able to do this career and share some of my experiences.
hell yeah, man. So before we get into, deeper into the topic today of just, building incredible worlds and gaming, um, I would like for the audience to get to know you a little bit better. So how long have you been in this industry, and what project are you most proud of so far?
Oh man, you're gonna like show how old I am. So
Hey,
yeah.
I'm 41 too. I don't know. It's like we're just all rocking and rolling. You're not dead, so then you're winning, right? Like that's how that
Yeah,
goes.
I'm not using a calculator to see how old I am yet, so that's a good step, I suppose. So I got started back in like 2002. Originally just jumped in at QA at Midway, which I think is like everybody's like favorite game job when they're right out of school or something. Like, oh, I get to test games and stuff. So I did
Yep.
that for a couple of years. And I mean, it was actually really awesome. So I'm working at Midway, and we have their entire library of games that comes through this quality assurance department where I'm working. So I'm testing all these different games, and it was always like this temporary gig. So it's kind of like, hey, yeah, Jim, after 3 months, we would lay off like 90% of the staff until we get more titles and we hire people back, and maybe we'll get you back, et cetera. I'm like, no, man, I'm gonna be great. Trust me. And I worked my ass off there. I really, really worked hard. So they kept me on. They never laid me off. And
Hell
the
yeah.
whole time, I don't want to be a professional tester, I mean, nothing to QA people, but I really wanted to make the games. And
Right.
originally I wanted to be an animator because, well, animator just sounds cool. I didn't know really, you know? So I'm there and they had embedded me in QA onto a project called Gauntlet Seven Sorrows way back in the day. And I was sitting right across from this guy who was an effects artist. One day his phone rang, back when we actually used desk phones. And he's like, Jeff, dude, you're not going to believe like who just called me, you know. And we're talking a little bit. One thing led to another, and he's just like, I got an offer. I'm going to work for Weta on King Kong. And like,
Ooh.
who were you talking to again? He's like, Peter Jackson. And me being kind of an idiot, like Peter who? Like he's like, dude, he's like a freaking really famous director, man. He's gonna hire me out. We're gonna work on King Kong. So anyway, I'm like, dude, you got to do me a solid, man, because I really want to do what you do. I want to work in the dev team. Can you videotape, record something? Like I just want to see what you're doing. I'm gonna try to copy it and apply it for your job. So he did. He actually recorded his a whole day of his work and they showed me some of the tools and stuff. So when he left, I studied that. And I spent like a week making effects from what he taught me in that like 1 or 2 day period of time. And I put together this reel. I don't know anything about demo reels, by the way. I put together a 12-minute demo reel. It's the most
Oh,
epic thing I've ever
Jesus.
done. It's massive, right? And I still don't know how to apply for this. So I went ahead and I learned 3D modeling. I learned how to apply motion capture data that I found on the internet. The problem is
And
that
this is
I
the early
modeled.
2000s, by the way.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is not easy to do this. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So and of course I didn't do this in a very thoughtful order because I'm rushing, man. I'm really excited about this. So I modeled a SWAT character, right? And it's like all black and stuff, which by the way, it's really hard to model all black characters. Don't do all things in all dark because you don't have any cool contrast. And then I start to animate. I'm like, damn, animation's hard. You can't really figure this stuff out in a couple hours. You know, this is not a weekend task. So I have to find something to animate this with. So I get on the internet and I'm searching for hours and hours and hours. And the only thing I could find is ballet. That's the only mocap data for free I could find. It's ballet. Like, oh man, I have a problem. How do I do ballet on this character? It's obviously a SWAT character, you know. Said, well, I'm not gonna worry about it. So I just applied the mocap to it, and I have ballet dancing SWAT character. I put it on my demo reel. Why not? You know, it's like everything in a kitchen sink. So I get this all together. I go back to work. I really, really worked hard, like all weekend, like 40 hours of work, barely sleeping. Took it to the art director. I'm like, hey, I want to apply for Dano's job. I know he's leaving, man. I want to be an effects artist. He's like, are you the QA guy? I'm like, yeah, yeah. He's like, let me see what you got. And he sits through this 11-hour demo reel and scrubs through all the worst parts, like super slow, back and forth, back and like while I'm watching, right? Doesn't say a word. And I'm just like, I'm sweating, man. I'm like, oh, this is not going how I expected. And I see him smiling. He's kind of chuckling a bit to himself. And he's like, Jim, that's the worst demo reel I've ever seen in my life. That's just so bad. And he's like, "Oh, dude, it's really impressive though. You did this like over the weekend. How did you learn our tools? You know, so he's super impressed. I figured all this stuff out. He's like, you don't have to do all this other stuff. We just want to see the effects part, you know. And guess what, man? How can I say no? We're gonna pitch you on the team. You can make some effects. I totally misunderstood what he was saying. He was gonna let me make effects as a QA person, right? I didn't know that I wasn't actually hired on as a developer. I actually
Oh,
didn't
okay.
I didn't really care either. I was so excited that, this is better than testing. So I start making effects on the project and everything. And one thing leads to another. And suddenly these people in suits, they show up and they're here, at the office. And whenever suits kind of show up at your game company, something weird's happening, right?
Right.
And they're like, everybody, the whole team, we need you to meet into this one singular room area. And they're like, well, we have good news and bad news. Well, the good news is that everybody's going to get a 10% bonus of your salary if you stay the next 6 months because we're shutting down the studio. And that's the bad news. And I'm just like, damn it. I finally get my big break and they're shutting the studio down, you know? So I raise my hand. I'm like, so I make like 13 bucks an hour. Like, how does that work for me? Is that like 10% of a weekly salary or is that 10% of the annual salary? And they're like, who are you? I'm like, I'm James Sanders, and they're like, okay, we'll talk to you after. And the executive producer and the senior producer pulled me into their office afterwards. And they're like, Jim, you're a QA. You're not part of the team. How about this? Would you be interested in joining the team full time? And I'm like, yeah, yeah, I would. So they made me an offer. Of course, I took the offer and the salary, and it was like winning the lottery, man. It was like 40,000 a year or something like that. I felt like,
But it was a 3 month gig, right?
yeah, well, 6 months until the studio shut
Okay.
down. they gave me a salary position so I could get that 10% bonus. And then
Oh,
after it was
wow.
done, I would probably, a studio shut down, I could go back to QA or whatever it was. I was so grateful and thoughtful. That was Scott Lane, by the way. He ended up becoming the director of New World over in this is Riverside. Anyway, that so Scott partnered me up with another guy named Sal DeVita, and Sal DeVita ended up becoming my mentor. And Sal really worked with me every day. He walked me through like the effects timing, how to make things more powerful, how to make it read well for game design and mechanics and stuff. And he really kind of taught me how to think like a designer as I'm making effects. And I really owe him so much, both of these guys. So anyway, I worked hard. I worked every day. I made sure I was the very first person in there because I'm a nerd like that. And I stayed until the very last guy left. I remember there's this other junior guy, and it was like a contest. We would both wait and try to wait for the other guy to finally leave, and then one of us to leave, the other leave right after him. It was like 2 in the morning. We go home, sleep for 3 hours, come back, and we did that for the full 6 months. So after the studio shut down, Scott and Sal's like, "Hey Tim, we're going to bring a couple people with us. We'd like you to come with us, and we want you to come over into our next game. We're going to make a game called TNA Wrestling. It's going to be over in Chicago, kind of where Midway Mothership was." And I'm like, "I don't care where it's at, man. I'll go to Siberia with you guys. Let's do it." I'm super pumped. I'm a new artist and stuff. And at the same time, they want me to learn more about how to use effects. They're going to switch to the Unreal Engine. So they start flying me up to Seattle, and I'm cross training with the Midway Central Effects team. And there's a bunch of guys there, it's Joe and Scrapper and John and stuff that are up there, and they're basically teaching me the ropes. And while I'm up there, they really like me, and they're like, "Hey, Jim, what do you think about joining us up here in the Central Effects team full time?" So they actually were offering me a job up in Seattle. I'm like, "Oh man, what do I do here? Could I leave kind of the loyalty check? These guys that got me in, do I go up there?" And I talked to them. They're like, "Jim, you should go join that team. You're going to learn so much. You're going to get so good from those guys. They are really that good." So I'm like, "Okay, all right, guys, I'll see you later." So I joined that team up in for Surreal Software and work on that Central Effects team. And that's really where I got like the core of my knowledge. Is a big group. We're all sharing collectively one space. We are supporting all of Midway's games. So we're working on 5 games at a time. That's why I have so many credits. I have something like 25 AAA titles to my name or something
That's
over like 20
incredible.
some odd years or whatever. So I'm literally working on 2 or 3 games at a time. So I get to do fantasy games, shooter games, everything that Midway is doing, I'm working on. So I get all this really awesome exposure to all these genres. Anyway, one day Joe Scrapper, and they're like, "Hey, we're going to make her own game. Would you be interested in joining us and making her own game?" It's a game called Insanely Twisted Shadow Planet. And I'm like, "Guys, I'm not in a good position to do that, man. Like, I'm struggling financially. I don't think I could survive very long without earning a paycheck. So I'm going to stick here at Midway." They're like, "Okay, congratulations. You're now the Midway Director of Effects." Or, well, I think it's actually manager or something like that. I just kind of inherited the team because they all left to do this game, which ended up winning a BAFTA, by the way. So the game did really quite well with Michelle Gagné and those guys. So they made this really awesome visual game. So anyway, I'm there at Seattle. So I'm kind of like, I don't know, doing the Forrest Gump way of doing game development, like tripping my way up the ladder, right? And
That's all right.
anyway, I'm at this position at Midway where I'm hiring people and building this team out. So I'm like, okay. At the same time, Midway's at the state where it's going bankrupt. So I'm getting these emails that are like, "Do not destroy any documentation. It may be needed in the court of law." I'm like, I can see the rats are leaving the ship, man. It's time to get out of here. Like, this is bad. Like, they're going out of business, and I don't want to be in court with this. So I start looking for another job. Where can I go? And I'm in a really bad spot. I can't make my mortgage. The company is going bankrupt. And I said, "Okay, where can I go where they can't garnish my wages very bad?" That's literally my decision gate. That's such a terrible way by the way, not career advice, bad, bad advice. So I took a job, and I'm looking primarily in Texas because that's one of the areas that felt safest to me. And I looked at a couple options, and one of them was Gearbox. And I interviewed at a few studios, but when I went to Gearbox, there's something real magical about that company. And it's funny. I guess this whole interview with them was a whole day, like the interviews go in my industry. And at the end of the day, they're like, "Hey, Jim, let's go see Rambo. Can you go see Rambo with us? Let's go." And immediately I felt like I was part of the family. And like, "Oh man, my flight leaves tonight. I can't." So I took the offer. And the thing that really attracted me there is they had 2 games that they're working on. One was a top secret game called Willow. That was a project name. I guess I can say that now since the game has been released. And the other one was Alien Colonial Marines. And I really wanted to work on Aliens because I'm a huge fanboy of the franchise. Like, yeah,
Oh yeah,
man, sci-fi, Alien, dude, I'll tear it up. Let me go.
Ridley
Let me do that.
Scott makes some great stuff. So.
So I go there, I take the job, I move in, and they immediately don't put me in that project. I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. Whatever, man. I don't care. I'll figure this out. I'm going to go to this other project. They need me there. I'm good at it. What are you guys doing? And I look at it, and it looks like Tatooine or whatever from Star Wars. It's this brown, boring landscape. It's kind of like the sci-fi, almost Western, for a better term. It wasn't very fun. It was kind of dirty and ugly. And I was like, Jesus, what have I got myself into? And my whole team is really junior. I have about 6 years experience at this point, and I'm the most senior person on the whole team, except for maybe a couple producers. And then all hell breaks loose, man. Like the producer on the project, he takes another job somewhere else. The associate producer leaves, he checks out. The art director gets demoted, to a senior role. And I'm just, oh my God, dude, I'm gonna be homeless in Texas. You know how hot it gets in Texas? Like, what am I gonna do?
Texas.
And I'm
Yep.
talking to my wife at home, and I'm like, dude, I can't even find the toaster. I'm so frustrated. It's like 2 in the morning. I just want some toast, and I don't know what am I going to do. I think I made a terrible, tragic, career mistake. I just committed career suicide. She's like, you're going to go back there and you're going to fix it. I'm like, dude, it doesn't work that way in games, man. You don't just go fix something. There's like a huge, complicated process. And we talked about it and everything else. And she's like, you just go back and do the best that you can. So I go back and I did the best that I can. I took what I had. I started teaching the guys how to make normal maps and how to make assets that are performant, how to create materials, how to do all these different things. And the the more senior people, the owners of the studio, they pulled me aside and they said, "Hey Jim, would you like to take over as the art director?" And I thought about that for a second. Like, no, that's a terrible idea. I'm an effects guy, man. I'm a technical artist. The art director, I think, would be a very bad choice. Not to mention, I'm going to piss off like every single artist here at this company who would love to have that role. Not to mention the other art director that I really respected that had to step down. I'm like, no, I won't do that. And they're like, well, we still need you to do these things. I'm like, yeah, I'm down. Let's do it. Like, how about team lead? I'm like, sure. That sounds pretty generic. It doesn't even exist in the industry. I'll be a team lead, whatever that means. And I kind of kept doing the same thing. So I kept mentoring the team. I started meetings every Friday. I tell them, hey, man, here's where we're at in the project. This is the time that we have for it. Here's just basically kind of high level management. And that really was my first start of managing kind of a big group of people, about 20 or 30 artists. And from there, the project ended up coming to a point where it got very stale. And we're fighting against some of these other projects that look very similar, but look a lot better. Mainly, it had a game out that was just kind of crushing it. It was just, oh my God, what are we going to do? And the owners of the company said, we need to change the style. We have to go to a different art style. I'm like, okay. I don't really know what we're going to do. He's like, well, check this out. I have a video from Code Hunters. What do you guys think of this? And I don't know if you've heard or seen that show, Code Hunters, but it's a very stylized, animated, kind of hand-drawn look. And it's a very iconic look. It's very cool, by the way. And the second that anybody up tabs over and starts searching for this Code Hunters video, you're going to know exactly what project I'm about to talk about. So anyway, we
What's it
embraced
called?
that.
Goat Code Hunters?
Code Hunters, yeah, CODEHUNTERS. Look for a bus scene. Um, anyway, I don't know how many people it's going to annoy or frustrate that I shared this information, but whatever. I think it's pretty much in the public domain.
Okay.
So anyhow, coincidentally, I'm just at a friend's house, one of the guys I work with, and it's his wife's birthday. And we're celebrating. And in his house, he has this DC comic board of Batman. Batman's on one knee. He's proposing with a rose. I'm like, oh man, that's a killer idea. Next time at Comic Con, I'm gonna buy some boards and like hang it on my wall. 'Cause I just love having those unfinished boards. They look so awesome. You see that talent, and stuff. And you're like, oh no, I drew that. I'm like, really, dude? You're freaking pretty awesome, dude. Like he's like, yeah, actually, I'm a comic book artist. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, on the side. I'm like, you're the UI guy. You make icons on the site. Is that right? He's like, yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. But I also draw for DC, and so does Rob over here. He draws for DC and Marvel, and I know Stan Lee. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me, man! Like you're kind of a powerhouse here, and you're making icons. We need to talk about this, on Monday. So Monday, I go back and I meet with this guy. His name is Scott Kester, and I'm like, Scott, do you think you could do your style, like how you process a board from from, line art all the way into colored art, how you paint it and everything. Can you do that on one of our characters? And Photoshop at this time had this weird feature. It's like a 3D paint program. It's kind of cheesy. It's really hard to use. It's super
I remember
new.
it.
And he's like, yeah, man, because I don't know any tools really, but I know Photoshop. So he gets in and he paints a creature, and I'm like, dude, he looks just like what we're trying to aim for. So I share that out with the company, and it's just like a firestorm, man. It spreads. So that's our new art style, and we call it our concept art style. So this project, the code name Willow, is Borderlands, and that's kind of how we got the whole Borderlands art style. It's a combination of what the owners were kind of looking at. Brian Martell, he kind of was a vision for that. And then us kind of like, how do we get all of our talent together? How do we make this happen? And it wasn't like we just came up with some cool post-process solution where it did outlines and stuff. No, we painted that crap, man. Just like an artist, comic book artist, we painted that game. Here's a fun fact about Borderlands. We didn't do the whole damn game like that. It would be impossible. We just didn't have enough time. This is the first game of a new IP, so we only did the main path. So if you play the game, you go off on the side missions, you'll notice that the that art style gets a little bit weaker. It's only like it is a little bit of a post process at that point. It's just a little bit of black outline, but the game changes for sure.
I
So
definitely
anyway,
noticed that. That's interesting.
that's a that's the inside scoop. And yeah, I could talk about Borderlands over and over. I love that franchise. It was so awesome working on it. And
It's super
quick,
cool, man. And that
yeah,
style is just like so unique and really like and they've just continued to lean into it and it's just been every game looks so cool and obviously the gameplay mechanics and all of that are incredible and just the shoot and loot and just the endless replayability of it. I've definitely been one of my favorite franchises and it's I think I told you I've had 3 ACL surgeries because I'm just a crazy meathead, I guess. I don't know. One of the few human beings that ever existed that could tear 3 ACLs. You can't even do that without modern medicine. So I tore two of mine and somebody else's. But yeah, I every time I've been down, like there's always been a Borderlands, post surgery that I wanted to play. That I've been busy with work and all the things I do. But like I always right the first day out of surgery, it's all right, let's crush this. Let's beat Borderlands 2 or the pre-sequel or, just the 3 or 4. I haven't played 4 yet. Is 4 out? I don't even know. I think 4 just came out, right? Or is it
yeah.
coming
I
out?
mean, it's getting brewed, man. I think it's almost out or is out. I'm not following it right now because I'm on other franchises. But
Yeah.
yeah, I only worked on 1, 2, and 3, and I didn't do a lot on 3. Maybe a dozen effects or something. That's it.
Oh,
But
okay. Yeah, 4 was released last September. I think they're working on 5 now. But anyways, it's you started
awesome.
a thing with that team and like isn't that cool to be able to create something that continues to persist? Like they'll never abandon that style. It's core to the game now.
Yeah,
And
yeah. I
that
mean,
wouldn't have happened without you. That's incredible.
it's just a means to an end, by going to that style. When we went to the more concept art style, we were able to do some things that are really important. We cut a lot of normal maps, we cut a lot of our spec maps, our ambient occlusion stuff. So we got rid of all these textures, which allowed us to fit on disk fast. We had to get this game out really quick because the cold reality is games are still business, and if your game is not profitable and it doesn't sell, you're not making another one. So we were kind of in survival mode in a lot of ways. Like, how can we get this game out in a way that's something that doesn't take another 5 years, that's within our budget, which is very low for this game, in a time that's a pretty tight window because we have all these other titles. Like, whenever you're engaged and you're developing a title, you don't want to release your MMO the day that, like, wow, releases their expansion. It's a bad mojo. So you have to find the right window. So we're trying to get it in there.
Yep.
And I think the interesting thing about Borderlands that a lot of people don't understand is it wasn't very fun to begin with. And this, I mean, a lot of games are like this. I remember us having a meeting like, hey, man, we got to find the fun because right now it's not very fun. It's like we have all this loot that showers you with everything, but we're missing some of the different loops. And the company did some really smart things. We hired some, we call it the truth team, but they're basically kind of behavioral scientists. So they were able to kind of dig in, do testing, allow us to find out what's fun, what's working, what people like, what didn't, what our own anecdotal kind of feelings were about it. And we started to tune this into something that felt more fun. Like originally we had really low ammo. So you'd get a piece of ammo and you'd run out. And it's like, well, we wanted to make it really hard. It's like survival. And you have to match the ammo to your gun and stuff. And it ended up being really difficult and not that fun. So we're like, okay, slowly ramping these up, and eventually, Matt Armstrong, one of the co-creators of Borderlands, he was just like, hey, okay, let's tune it, go slow, and he had so much patience. Like, dude, just give me more ammo. I just want to shoot stuff. He's like, okay, just be patient, Jim. And eventually, it just all started clicking, man. It started having this synergy that there's a magic point in any game where everybody comes together collectively to create kind of the soul of the game. And that's where we were at. From engineering, from artists, from designers, everybody was involved in this process, and we're all finding out what is fun, what's not. Man, I have another fun story about that. I mean,
Yeah.
we're working on Borderlands, and we're trying to find what the fun is, right? And I come from Midway, and Midway, I don't know why there's midgets, and I'm sorry, little people in the games all the time, and I'm like, let's just have little people on fire. Let's just go. And I just kind of said that as a joke, and they're like, that's a great idea. So they started adding like all these little people, like, fire. We used them as shields. We were throwing them all types. Oh my gosh, it just turned into its own thing. We just kind of went out of control, and it ended up being another part of the game that just made its character what it is. So it
Yeah.
went almost into like pop culture land. We had a lot of talented writers and people that are writing for us that helped everything come together. Like Randy, well, he's one of the founders, is writing for us, and it all just kind of came together in a way that it created its own language, right? Like if I tell you a game and I'm saying, hey man, imagine Halo meets Diablo with a bazillion guns with an art style, you probably know what I'm talking about. And instantly the whole team is aligned. And that's the magic point for that title, I think.
Yeah, I mean that is what it felt like when you were playing it too. It's kind of that little bit like that Space Marine, and even the gameplay mechanics feel a lot like Halo. But it does kind of have that dungeon crawlery kind of just run it, just getting all the loot and the random loot tables, and I loved all of that. That was actually, it's so exciting and like rewarding. It's like playing the lottery every time you kill a boss, or like
Yeah.
and you want to open every chest and do everything. And so I think they really nailed that fun factor. And it's interesting to hear that like it wasn't fun at first, and I think people have these ideas, and sometimes they get stuck on them, maybe like a little married to like, oh, but we want to make it hard, so but like there's a nice balance sometimes between too difficult and like too easy. It's like we were talking a little bit before about EverQuest a bit, and I think that game was crazy hard. And I don't know if anyone ever played it, but like we're talking about an insane grind. And like as a grown man, like I've tried to go back and play like a reboot of like the 1999 servers, and it's like I played as hard as I could for 40 hours one week, and I got to level 5, and like that's insane, right?
Yeah.
Like that's insane, and I love that as a young man when I'm 14, 15, 16, running raid guilds in high school, and I had nothing else to do with my life. I didn't have any other responsibilities, but I couldn't. There's no way I could do that now, right? Like, and in fact, my wife very sternly let me know she was not in approval of the 40 hours I invested in EverQuest
Right.
that week. Like so, but it's interesting because I think it's just you got to play towards the demographic, and I think understanding that and unpacking that makes a good game because, like you said, there's a business to this, right? Like if this game doesn't monetize properly, there won't be a sequel. Everyone loses their job, so you can't be married to anything. You have to know who you're building the game for and really lean into that. Like everything, you can never try to build something for everybody, right? Because there's so many people and so many different dispositions and ideas and things they like and don't like and cultural backgrounds that you really have to pick a target. And that goes for anything in the business world, right? And especially when you get into marketing and advertising and promoting and building anything, it's like, hey, who are we going for, and build it for them, because the more you try to broaden it, the more it gets diluted, and then no one really loves it. If no one really loves it, it doesn't do great things. And that's been my take on these 139 interviews I've done so far across and my 20 years of business and marketing. But I'd love to hear how that what do you think about some of that? Do you agree with that, or
Oh man, I think it's spot on. I think that I've been on a couple games, and it seems that the games that are the most ambitious, that try to be every game that there's ever been, like, hey, I'm a shooter, and you can do racing, and you can do golf, and have all these different games in there. The more that you add in there, the harder it is for that game to come into fruition. to become something special, you really have to have that core loop, that core gameplay loop that keeps your players engaged. It's fun. And if you don't get that down first, you don't really have a game. What you have is a really expensive piece of technology with lots of features, and that doesn't necessarily make it fun. And by the way, this is an interesting tidbit. Like, it's funny. I have all these heroes in the industry. I think everybody probably does. One of them is Bill Trost, and I had the opportunity to work with him at Intrepid. I didn't finish up my whole bio. I got so much stuff. Like I went from Gearbox over to Sony Bend to Days Gone stuff and to the mountains and realized I'm not a mountain man. I want to go somewhere else where it's warmer. So I went to San Diego to work on this Kickstarter startup MMO, which is Ashes of Creation. And on Ashes, I got to work with Bill Tross. So Bill, he's one of the co-inventors of EverQuest. You got to get him on your show, man. I'm going to talk
I
to Bill.
do.
Like, Phil, dude, you got
Oh
to
yeah.
talk. You got to talk to Carl. So, and this guy, he's legendary. He's awesome. And I remember when he first came on, he's like, "Hey man, I got this idea. We're gonna do like this cool like Minotaur mechanic and stuff. Where does this?" And I'm like, "Dude, how long you been thinking about that?" He's like, "Maybe just now." I'm like, "You gotta be kidding me, man." So these guys are wired in this way that's just so exceptional that designers, I think people, they don't always understand. Like it's some of this, yeah, you could get trained for, you can learn how to make effects, you can learn to be a good designer, you can learn principles and stuff, but some of this is just hardwired into people, man. They're just creative like that. But back to your point, yeah,
Yeah,
I,
for
I
sure.
see that problem a lot where a game is trying to be too much. You can't find its identity. And it's more than an art style. I mean, art style is great because like Halo, you know exactly that game when you see it, or Borderlands or something. That's helpful. But there's a lot of games out there that have this incredible art style, but they're maybe not the most fun. You have to find that balance.
100%. Uh, and so let's talk about that. So VFX in itself sits at the intersection of art and engineering. So how do you balance that creativity with performance constraints and like making sure there's the fun? Like, what does that look like when you get into the conversations? Like, hey guys, this looks great, but I'm sort of bored. I'm sort of frustrated. I'm sort of not enjoying this. This is a game after all, right?
Oh man, that's a good question. A lot of people don't really think about it, but I mean, Effects Geek, I think about all the time. If you go too crazy, like on Intrepid, we went really heavy on effects, you start to lose the gameplay. It was like Christmas explosion in every frame. It's too much. We had to bring it back, right?
Right.
I think if you look at a franchise like Call of Duty, theirs are all cinematic experience. The whole game's one giant, awesome cinematic experience. That's what makes the game so fun. You're so immersed into it, and their effects are grounded in realism, but they're not thrown in your face to the point you can't see your targets. That takes away from the fun. So with effects in particular, there's so much about it that it's a supplement, man. It's your feedback loop. It's how do you make the game mean something from a design point of view? Design has to rule the day. So you're there to support that design. You can't get to a point where you're so much into your own world of creating something visually awesome as an effects artist that you lose track of what the whole of the game is. Your job is to add the sauce, man, that gives it the extra flavor, and you're not making a mistake. So that's part of
Ah,
the process. Says everything is iconic. So to give you an idea for Borderlands, the way that we designed that was I wanted the muzzle flashes to have a shape that's specific to each archetype. So you'll notice that a shotgun, a pistol, a rocket launcher, they all have different muzzle flashes because you see that up front in first person. You're not being told that this is a shotgun. Subconsciously, you're going to recognize that star shape as an assault weapon flash. You'll know it not only when you shoot it, but when somebody shoots back at you. Because originally we are going to do all this, PvP stuff that didn't quite make it in the first game. But anyway, so everything has these different shapes. Now we have all these element types. All the element types have a very distinct color. Like we decided that, hey, corrosive is going to be green. It's not going to be purple, for example. Like all these different elemental types have a very distinct color language. Now shapes extend all over the place. Even at Intrepid, where we're doing fantasy games, our lightning has a very distinct shape because you got to be careful. Is it lightning or is it magical energy? If it's purple, it's no longer lightning. It becomes arcane energy and so on. So we create kind of a codex of effects work that shows here's how everything looks. And this is a sample of how this particular magic is. Everything has a purpose. It has a reason. We don't make magic for the sake of making magic. We make magic for the sake of making design work. So that's kind of the distinction. And everything's got to be clean and readable. I'm lucky because I'm not working on a game that's super competitive. It doesn't have an esport, so I can cheat a lot. Whereas in a game that's super competitive, all that's super clean because people get really grumpy when they don't know what the hell's going on in your esport. So
yeah. Well, and look, there's a lot of stakes, right, at esports. So the cleaner and clearer and more concise the user, the gameplay and the user experience is, the more they can dial themselves in and become, I mean, they have to play these games thousands and thousands of hours to become the best that there is, right? You got to basically,
Yeah.
it's basically a numbers game. Like, yeah, there's obviously a large degree of talent and all that sort of stuff. But with any kind of cream of the crop professional anything, you're talking about sports, you're talking about art, you're talking about whatever, the people that are winning are the people that put in the most time by far and away. Like, it's not even close. And then there's some discrepancies within there of like actual talent and all that sort of stuff. But the big gap is like, are you investing the time? Like, so yeah.
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 Oh, that's dude, that's such a like a good segue. Kind of one of the things that's real close to my heart is training, mentoring people. And
Yeah.
I'm the first to admit I'm not the best effects artist in the world. It's just I'm not. I'm not the most talented artist, but I make up for it by working hard. And a lot
Yeah.
of times that's the difference between somebody who can make it in the industry, whatever it is you're doing, man. If you're putting in the extra time, if you're putting in extra work more than everybody else, if you're really trying your best, that's how you win, man. That's how you succeed. That's how you break into the industry you're trying to get into. So it's such a good point you bring up.
No, and you're absolutely right. And your history and story that you shared with us speaks to that, right? Like, you never got to the next place because like people were like, oh my God, this guy's got the best work I've ever seen. It was like, no,
Right.
this guy gives a fuck and he's passionate and he really cares. And oh my God, he spent this whole weekend making this whole thing that he had no idea how to do the last weekend, right? And the guy that hired you at the time like had the insight as a leader to go, wow, okay, so you have talent and all sorts of things, but what you can't teach somebody is how to have motivation and how to go, I'm gonna just find a way. And you got all the way to like something that you could show, which is incredible for a weekend, right? And he saw like, yeah, this real fucking sucks, but like, oh my God, I can't believe you made this in a weekend you went from zero to this. That's incredible, right? Like the manifestation of the real wasn't even the thing at that point. It was, oh my God, you did this. Like the motivation and drive and just ingenuity, right, to even be able to produce that over a weekend was what he saw and knew that was a skill you can't teach anybody, and you could fill in the gaps with everything else. And I think now's kind of an interesting time for this industry and the world. And I mean, we won't get too broad, but like, with all these studio closures going on and shifting production models and like all the different shit going on with AI, like who knows what this is going to look like. But what would you tell young artists that they need to understand about how to build a sustainable career in games? Because I think you've got something that they need to hear. So yeah, what would you say to them if they're listening?
Yeah, I just had this conversation with a student. I'm doing some teaching at Vertex School right now as well, and we're talking about that because the industry is scary. Like, there's been massive amounts of people being laid off, huge studios that are getting shut down. AI is coming in, it's making its presence known. And it's such a polarizing thing. And it's probably one of those things that I should, carefully sidestep, be like, yeah, I don't want to talk about AI much because there's a lot of people, especially artists, that are really against it because it is a direct threat in a lot of ways. And it's this conversation I've had over and over and over with artists where I've had some artists that were super adamant, like they can't be a single bit of AI. And there's a lot of game studios that have policies, very clear policies that we're not going to use AI. And honestly, AI has a purpose. It does do things. Maybe it's not mature enough to do everything, but like, for example, I use AI a lot to rewrite messages, especially when I make a grumpy email. I'm like, please change the tone to not sound like an asshole, and it'll help me kind of recollect my thoughts. Or maybe
Yep.
I have like 10 different thoughts. I'm like, how do I connect this? So there is points where AI works in game development. And what I would tell new people specifically, the most, I guess, high demand jobs are always going to be the ones that require the most amount of skills that are between technical and creative. If you're a left brain, right brain person and you have a little bit of coding, you can do a little bit of art, that makes you really valuable. Those kind of people are really hard to find, they're hard to train, and they add so much value. Now, if you're not one of those people, you don't have to be. You don't have to be a freaking master in math or anything to be a good effects artist, but it helps. But you can get some basic skills. You can learn techniques. So there are these hard skills. You can go to tech school, for example, and they'll teach you how to do technical things, whatever that is in my industry or others. that doesn't make you the best at that job. You can find other skills, and the soft skills or the creative skills you might get are the same. You can practice drawing, and you can learn how to do stuff. You'll start to remember proportions. Your art will get better. So you need all those things together. Now, AI can replicate stuff, but it's not creating, it's not inventing, it's not I mean, the creativity, the imagination, the imaginative parts of what we do, the synergy that we've had in different projects, what made Borderlands special and what's made all these other games, with Larry and all these huge blockbusters that we love so much special is not because the computer wrote an algorithm. It's not AI that came up with it. It is the collective genius that you find among industry professionals who are driven, passionate, excited, motivated. That is contagious. When one person has it, it spreads. And that's the kind of talent you want to be. And when you show up for work and you can prove that you're that kind of person, they hire you, they invest in you, and they will never let you go because they know that you're the cornerstone. And for any CEO out there or any senior person who's managing people, I'll give you this particular lesson that I found to be the most important one I learned. The most valuable part of your IP is not Borderlands, it's the people who made it. So keep that in mind as you're thinking about how to balance your project or what your next project might be, because that's how you really make a great game.
That's beautiful and well stated. Yeah. The chemistry of the human beings and their collective unique experiences and bouncing ideas off each other and as a fellow creative and being in lots of rooms where we've discussed lots of different creative projects from everything in the fantasy world and marketing and advertising and even gaming. And so it's like, yeah, that when you have the right energy, and I've hired artists in the past where I was like, this guy's got incredible talent, and I was probably in my late 20s at the time, and I'm just like, man, this guy's going to change the game for us. Like, I can't believe I got this amazing artist on our team. And like, attitude sucked, impossible to collaborate with, totally negative energy. And we worked with them for one project and let them go. And it was just like a real eye opener for me because I didn't realize how important those soft skills were and that energy and that passion and that just like, do you want to actually be around this person? Like, do they like, inspire you? Like, can you inspire each other? Like, if you can get a group of talented people together with different perspectives and lots of diverse ideas that inspire each other and have great chemistry, that's where the magic happens, right? Like, that's sort of exactly what you're talking about with Borderlands. Like, and that's the kind of stuff that people need to be thinking about. These tools are going to evolve. They're going to get crazier. They're going to be, no one knows where they're going right now, and we might be headed quickly to the apocalypse and it might not be a big deal anyways, right? We're all going to, AI is going to go Terminator on us, but who knows? But at the end of the day, the becoming, familiar with these tools and just letting your passion lead you is going to be the thing that keeps you dialed in, keeps you relevant, keeps you having value to companies and to projects, because that passion, you can't, like, an AI chatbot can't give you that passion. You can't be inspired to do great things, but like, they can give you ideas and some of that might lead to inspiration, but it's the human translation that makes that into something awesome. So I tell people very similar things. Just don't be threatened. And I was talking with Stefan Sagmeister the other day on the podcast, I guess last episode, a couple episodes ago, and he said, Usain Bolt can run an incredible, insane, fast 100 meters. It's remarkable, right? Like,
Yeah.
he's like,
Yeah.
and he said, and that impresses literally anybody that's seen it. He's like, and there's no one on planet Earth that's impressed by the fact that I can get on my Vespa and beat him.
That's right.
And I was like, oh, so he's like, there's going to be a great resurgence, he thinks, and I think so too, in people being impressed and wanting things that human beings made with their hands, wanting a concept artist that actually drew this, and we can include this in the fucking concept art book that we're going to sell with the game. Like, so I think that there's a level and layer of that people just keep making your skills better and better and better. Do what you love. Get passionate about it. Surround yourself by people with passion, and just keep reaching for the bigger opportunities and learn all the skills, learn all the tools, find what you're the best at, and don't bury your head in the sand. Don't be doom and gloom. You got to be optimistic, because pessimism doesn't do anything but defeat you. So,
So on that same note, and now I'm going to sound hypocritical, maybe. There was a
okay.
time where people hand painted normal maps and they came out with tools to make normal maps. And the people who did not embrace those tools very quickly didn't have jobs. So
Yep.
AI is here. It's not going to go away. And people need to embrace it. You need to understand it. You need to learn it. It will be part of your toolkit. But like you said, it's a tool. And there are a lot of tools. And if you go into an automotive shop, they can have different tools there. They can have the best tools in the world that are like Snap-on, that are really expensive. It doesn't make that guy a better mechanic. They're tools. So use the tools to find ways to augment what you're doing. I'll give you an example at Intrepid. One of the things that we did, we were running short on time. We needed some really quick concepts. So I asked, as an experiment, really, for the environment team and my concept artists to all use AI generated images, throw in prompts into our internal AI thing. It feeds from our own database, our own images that we painted. So we're kind of using our own art.
Which is an ethical data set for the record. Yeah, but continue.
Well, we actually had immediately, how do we use AI without like totally ripping off other people? Like
Yep.
let's feed it our own models, let's feed it our own art. So we're generating all this content, and it was very interesting. Some of it was really cool, some of it was really bad. But what that did is it drove us to a shared vision. And then from there, I handed back the concept. I'm like, cool, now let's paint it. And that was allowed us to rapidly get a shared vision that was faster actually than to have a concept done and then pass the concept to the team and have a meeting, be like, here's where we're going. However, that said, it does not replace the key art that we had our artists draw. They do these epic landscapes, they do these epic paintings and stuff. Those were really things that we iterated over a lot to get that vision. So there's a place for it, but AI is not something to be afraid of. Embrace it, understand how to use it. It will not replace you. It will not replace a great talent.
Yeah, I think it eviscerates creative block, and I love the way you guys were using it over there. Because I'm on the Graphic Artists Guild board, I talk about this a lot. But the biggest problem with AI is all the intellectual property theft that goes into these data sets.
Yeah.
So when you're making a data set that's all stuff that you and your team created and own the rights to, like that's okay. Like that's utilizing this technology in a way that works good. And I love the piece that you said too. Like nothing that came out of there was the thing, but what it did do was get all the right people thinking about the right things. And when you see something, you're like, oh, this is not it, but like that piece there is kind of cool, and this piece over here is cool, and these all things, and then it makes you think of another thing, and then all of a sudden you're off to the races. So like it eviscerates creative block if you use it properly. And I've been a huge advocate of that type of utilization of the tool. So anyhow, we quickly got to time on this
Yeah.
podcast here, James. I appreciate you doing this, and this has been a lot of fun. So before I let you go, I do have one last question for you. Is there anyone you'd like to shout out to the audience? Maybe a mentor, valuable resource, or favorite client
Oh
that we
man,
haven't already shouted out?
right. I already called out a lot of these guys that I love that are so dear to me. And that's the thing is once you start like, and I broke my own rules, like you never use names directly because you're always going to forget all the people that have helped you throughout. So I apologize to all the people that I'm forgetting about right now. It's 6 a.m. for me. I just got one cup of coffee. That's my excuse. But I will still call out a couple of guys like Scott and Sal. Man, I love you guys. I haven't seen you in years. It's been 20 years, but I'm so grateful because I am where I am now. I get to, work at Larian as the director of visual effects and on one of my favorite franchises with the most ridiculously talented team I could imagine. That's just such a dream come true. How could I ever have understood back when I first started in 2002 that one day I'd be doing that job? Thank you. So I appreciate it, guys, if you ever do stumble across this video.
That's beautiful. We'll send it to him on LinkedIn or something. Awesome. Well, and shout out to LinkedIn, which is where we connected again. I'm gonna have hit them up for a sponsorship soon because I keep finding lots of great guests on LinkedIn. So, well, we've been talking with James L. Sanders III. James, if people want to follow up with you directly, where should they go?
Yeah, reach out to me on LinkedIn. I do get busy, but I always respond. It takes me, a day or two, but I'll get back to you if you have any questions. If you're interested about how to break into visual effects, you have you want me to look at some work that you've done. I'll give you some feedback too. No problem.
That's all. That's very kind of you, James. I am sure some people will take you up on that. So fantastic. All right. Well, thank you again, James, for being on the show. And to everyone else, if this episode sparks something for you, share it with a friend or colleague, and we will see you all next time.
Thanks, Carl.
We really hope you enjoyed the show. Please like and subscribe to join us on our next journey through the world of art and business on the Pixel Retentive Podcast.